Hello and welcome to Gurston Down in Wiltshire for the latest round of the MCL Motorhome British Hillclimb Championship 2009. The runners and riders are here this weekend. Unfortunately, the weather's not quite so good as you can see. Despite having glorious weather for practice yesterday, we've had constant drizzle for the competition runs today. I don't think it's dampened anyone's spirits. As well as the usual runners and riders that are here at Gurston, championship contenders, we've got a familiar face in a pretty unfamiliar car. Simon Marsh, qualifier from Shelsley Walsh a couple of weeks ago, is having his first run in this ADR3 sports racing car. It's a circuit racing car with a space frame chassis, Honda engine, Hewland gearbox. Simon's got one of these cars on order for next year for hill climbing with a Hayabusa engine, but he's having a quick go in the automotive engine car to see what he thinks of it. Let's go straight over to Jerry Sturman, see what's happening on the track.
Thanks, James. Well, what's happening at the moment marks a milestone in Gurston's 42-year history. For almost half that time, the BARC South West Centre's organising team has been led by Simon and Jane Harrott. This is their last meeting before finally stepping down from the role, but little did they suspect they'd be hijacked for a run up the hill, returning to the paddock between an avenue of well-wishers. Back at the paddock office, renamed the Harrott Suite, came more congratulations from club committee members. Commemorative t-shirts were obligatory wear, not only for the committee, but for outgoing centre champion Simon and competition secretary Jane. During their extraordinary period of over 20 years service, Gurston has won the Hillclimb and Sprint Association's Norrie Galbraith Trophy, awarded annually for the best organised British hill climb round no less than 6 times. The equally long-serving Gavin Wart was also retiring from his backroom role in the paddock office, and presentations to all 3 vital members of Gurston's organising team rounded off a memorable occasion. Graham Masters competed at the first ever Gurston meeting back in 1967 in a Ford Anglia. Today he shares this 16-valve Mini with his son Neil, and they've been the combination to beat in the class so far this year. Let's take a trip up Gurston alongside Neil. In goes the clutch and we're off into Gurston's unique downhill start chute. It's full bore up through the gears before a slight lift for the tricky off-camber hollow bend. Once through the first part of hollow, the road continues to bend left and you need to keep the power on all the way up to the braking area for carousel. The entry to this steep uphill section is faster than it looks. Up into carousel 2 and it's easy to run wide here. The car goes light over Deer's Leap and we're into the critical Ashes left-hander. You need a good clean exit of Ashes with the power on early for the long uphill haul over Burke's Rise. Full bore through the final sweeping bends and the finish boards come up. For Neil, that's 10.57 yards in just over 36 seconds. As we've already heard from James, the weather for Sunday's British Championship counter was pretty miserable. For Saturday's practice day, conditions were much better, so let's take this opportunity to watch the action on a dry track. Fresh from his class record at Shelsley a fortnight ago, Andrew Griffiths is back on class-winning form with the Caterham Hayabusa, with a practice run not far short of his own class record. Ben Stately can always be relied on to entertain the crowds at his Datsun. The Castle Carey firefighter launches the 240Z into yet another 10/10ths run up his local hill. His pace today marks him out as a hot prospect for a class win tomorrow. He'll go on to do just that, but not without some opposition from not only Gurston regulars, but from a driver not often seen in action on the Wiltshire Hill. Mike Hall is the man making a rare visit to Gurston, but the Midlander has been driving this Morgan Plus 8 for more years than he'd care to remember. His practice form showed he'd pose a strong challenge to Stately, and so it proved. Simon Durning is the chief instructor at Gurston's Hillclimb Driver School, so he should know his way up, but this is the first time he's brought his superb Brabham Buick to the hill. As the car in which Brian Eccles finished second to Tony Marsh in the 1967 British Championship, the Brabham represents Hillclimb technology of a bygone era. Simon and fellow Brabham driver Richard Jones have been setting the Midland Hills alight this year and both ran inside Gurston's historic class record in practice. Keith Diggle's WEV is based on the 1200 Formula race car of the same name, but built entirely by the Aldershot-based engineer. WEV stands for Worm's Eye View, hence the car's ultra-low build. A 2-litre Cosworth BDG provides the power and it's Keith's ambition to break the half-minute barrier at Gurston. He comes very close during practice, but Sunday's damp weather will put pay to his hopes this weekend. You're now looking at the only twin-engine car in hill climbing today. There are two Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle engines mounted in the back of Chris Cornell's Force SR8 sports car. The layout's given a few problems over the years, but just watch how quick the car is in a straight line. Chris and driving partner Sue Hayes' record of success at the Brighton Speed Trials is unrivaled in recent years, but they're having a few problems with the car at Gurston this weekend. If you watched our last programme, you may remember that Rodney Thorne's Pilbeam Rover had quite a big accident at Wiscombe Park. Well, the car was repaired in less than a fortnight, and after a successful shakedown at Loughton Park, the former Gurston champion is back in action on his home hill. But he'll have to work really hard to win the big capacity sports lever class this weekend. And this is why. If you think that sounded more like a gas turbine than a car engine, you'd be absolutely right. Nick Mann spins all four wheels to warm up the tyres in his self-constructed turbocharged Cosworth engine Manic BT. The whine you heard was the auxiliary turbine installed to eliminate turbo lag. With its strengthened four-wheel drive Ford Sierra transmission, the launch speed of this amazing machine is faster than any other hill climb in the country, bar none. Let's just sit back and enjoy the ride. At 28.42 seconds, the Manic BT is the big sports lever record holder at Gurston, and although Sunday's damp weather put such times well out of reach, Nick went on to take yet another class win. Here's another machine constructed by its driver. Motorcycle engine cars dominate the small to medium single-seater classes in hill climbing, and former nuclear engineer Tony Pashley's built 3 of these 500cc Yamaha-powered Marengos. He's also written the first comprehensive book on building bike engine racing cars. But he might need to revise his thinking on Marengo 3's braking system though, once he's motored back to the paddock. The Rutland brothers have posed serious problems to the other 1100cc racing class contenders this year. The Steve Owen built OMS Hornet chassis has proved enormously popular over the last few years, and this is one of the quickest. Jon Rutland's at the wheel here, but even in practice he's finding the limit early on. It's just a minor off-course excursion, no damage, but both Jon and his brother Simon are under pressure this weekend. And this is the man that's providing most of that pressure. 1 month ago, in a superb drive at Wiscombe Park in this 1 litre Martlet Suzuki, built by his father Tony in just 4 months, Adam Steele qualified this tiny machine for both top 12 runoffs. Not only that, but he scored points in each of them on his first British Championship appearance. He's setting the 1100 class pace in practice today, and he'll go on to win tomorrow by over 2 seconds. From 1000cc to 6200 of them. Scott Raisin and his massive Chevy engine sand racer are part of a 9-strong contingent from the Channel Islands. More used to the public road courses of his native Guernsey, this is Scott's first visit to Gurston. The road's a bit narrower than he's used to, and he uses all the available space approaching the finish. And this one's even bigger. The massive 7.6 litre Chevy in Peter Jory's similar machine first saw service in a boat. Like Raisin, it's Jory's first visit to the Wiltshire Hill. The engine's so big he doesn't need to worry too much about changing gear, but once up and over Deer's Leap, he's having a slight problem in persuading the huge machine round Ashes. But these cars are nothing if not sturdy, and the Chevrolet Special is soon back in action. Peter Clark is an old hand at Gurston. In fact, he's a regular competitor on several of the British Championship hills. His Rover V8 powered Jaggernaut, so called because it originally ran a 6-cylinder Jaguar engine, is just a bit more sophisticated than the other two, although all 3 drivers seem to be sitting uncomfortably close to the accident. In the event, however, it was power and torque that won out, with Raisin and Jory just getting the edge over Clark among the trio of Channel Island sand racers. Dave Gardner's the defending Gurston Down Top 10 champion, but he's a fraction too late on the brakes into carousel and the wheels lock. He's offline, and after a short trip up the bank he has a problem selecting gears and decides to call it a day, for this run at least. Let's see that car in action from the driver's viewpoint, with John Forsyth at the wheel. This Pilbeam MP58 with its ex-Formula 1 Cosworth V8 is a little dated compared to the very latest Hillclimb machinery, but in the experienced Forsyth's hands it's still pretty quick. 600 horsepower blasts the car off the line and down the start chute. 100 miles an hour comes up in an instant, and Forsyth feathers the throttle into hollow bend at well over 120. Round the long left, and it's hard braking to haul the speed down for the tricky right-hander at carousel. This is the tightest part of the course. Now hard acceleration of the front wheels lift over Deer's Leap, but we're back on the ground for the sharp turn into Ashes. Now it's maximum revs and up through the gears for the blast over Berkshire Eyes and the finish line. Viewers may well remember Tony Wiltshire, who presented our British Hillclimb programmes last year. After a year off to prepare his own Dallara single-seater, which we'll look forward to seeing next season, Tony's back behind the wheel for a one-off drive in his old Rorke Formula 3 car, which now belongs to his neighbour Terry Graves, and which runs a 2.3 litre Duratec engine. Tony's clearly lost none of his old technique. Tomorrow he'll go on to finish a fine 6th equal in the 20-strong big single-seater class. For the full story from Sunday's British Championship action, join us after the break.